In a world that promises fulfillment through material wealth, status, and success, we often find ourselves chasing after things that in the end do not satisfy our deepest longings. Comedian Jim Carrey captured this well in a 2014 commencement address when he said, "I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of," so they could see that that's not the answer. Whether he realized it or not, Carey was echoing the sentiment offered by St. Augustine many centuries ago, who said, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they find their rest in you." Or as one of my teachers loves to say, God is the architect of our hearts and has made us in such a way that nothing less than infinite union with infinite love will do. These voices, old and new, speak the same truth. We long for something more. And we know at some level that we can't find it in the world, that only God can provide what we most deeply long for. That's what Jesus is speaking about. That's what he's giving witness to. That's what he's pointing to when he says, "I am the bread of life. Whoever believes in me will never be hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." In response to this universal longing for more, Jesus is offering himself as the bread of life, the fulfillment of our deepest longing. God's love tangible, God's love visible, God's love here and now in everything. And every time we participate in this sacrament, we are not just receiving sustenance for the moment, but we're being drawn into this deeper mystery of God's love, a mystery that satisfies the deepest hungers of our lives. The story goes, there was once a man lost in the vastness of the desert. His body was weakened by days of wandering under the scorching sun, and he was desperate for water. His thirst was so intense that it consumed his every thought. As he staggered across the endless dunes, he saw something in the distance, a shimmering oasis, a promise of relief. Filled with hope, he pushed himself forward, his heart racing, believing that he had found what he most needed. But when he arrived, he discovered it was just a mirage, an illusion of the life-giving water he so desperately sought. In its place, there was nothing but more sand. Confused and disoriented, the man fell to his knees, and in his desperation, he scooped up handfuls of the dry sand, trying to convince himself that it would quench his thirst. But the more he consumed, the more he suffered. I love how an ancient story can speak to the modern condition. How often do we reach for the sand of material wealth, status, and success, fill in the blank, thinking that it will fulfill our souls, only to find it just deepens our thirst? How often are we seduced by the mirages of our culture that promise satisfaction at every turn, yet leave our hearts still aching with hunger? Ronald Rolheiser, in his book Holy Longing, says that we are always searching for something more because we were made for something more. We're always searching for something more because we're made for something more. This search in our culture reflects this scarcity mindset. We believe, or we're conditioned to believe, that we don't have enough, that there isn't enough for us, there isn't enough for everyone. We must endlessly strive for more, and more, believing that somehow that will protect us, believing somehow that our needs will be met in more. But Jesus is inviting us out of that mindset into a whole new mindset, a mindset of abundance. One grounded in trust that God will provide, God does provide, God will always provide. The communion table stands as a powerful reminder and witness to God's abundance. In the bread and the cup, we see the love of God broken open, poured out for all, and all includes you. It includes you. It includes you, all of us, myself included. And as we receive this abundance, we participate in this divine flow of love, trusting that we will never lack for that which we most deeply long for. Derek Walcott, in his poem, Love After Love, reflects the transformation that happens when we stop seeking satisfaction and fulfillment outside of ourselves and start to discover it within our lives. He writes, the time will come when with elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger you are to yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another who knows you by heart. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another who knows you by heart. Sit, feast on your life. This poem speaks to that moment when we stop chasing the mirages and we turn to the bread of life, the heart of our own heart, which we sang last week. And it is then that we realize that that stranger is our deepest self. It is the heart of our heart, is the architect of our hearts, who has loved us from the very beginning and loves us now and will eternally love us, the one who welcomes us home to our truest self, the one who restores us to wholeness and invites us to feast on the abundance of our lives. Today, no matter what language you speak, no matter what country you find yourself in, whether you live in a land of plenty or a land of want, if you're a Christian, you will celebrate the sacrament of communion. God will be saying to all, give wine, give bread. These simple elements reflect this boundless love of God, and God shares it freely with all of us. At this table, we're reminded that the deepest longings of the human heart are met in God, not in the things of this world. And we are reminded that the richest lives are those who model their life after God and are willing to be broken open, poured out in service, in loving service to others. So feast on your life. Not on the life you think you ought to have, not on the life that you are conditioned to believe is the real life. No, none of it. Feast on your life, your God-given life, your God-blessed life. Feast on that. Sit at the table of abundance where there's always enough. Feast not on the illusions that are being offered, but on the bread of life, the true bread of life. Remember that your heart will only find rest in God. And you are made in such a way that nothing less than infinite union with the infinite love poured out eternally will do. And then from that place of fullness, go out into the world. Share God's abundance with anyone and everyone. Trust that as you give generously, you will never lack for anything. Just as Jesus freely gives himself through the bread and the cup, you too, as followers of Jesus, can freely give of yourself in the ways God has called you. Amen.